Boodling and bribing. Pyramid lobby goes public. Through the years of Presidents Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush, 1980 to 1992, the FTC was silent and idle regarding pyramid schemes. What had been identified just 7 years earlier by Senator Walter Mondale and by state attorneys general as an, quote, immediate need for uniform federal legislation which will protect all consumers from the evils of pyramid sales distribution, was seemingly forgotten when Reagan took office. Media coverage declined even as MLMs were mushrooming across the country. The pyramid lobby had little to worry about. But after the Bill Clinton administration and a Democratic Party majority in Congress came into power in 1993, fear and loathing erupted in the MLM industry. The pyramid lobby rapidly ramped up against the possibility that MLM's pyramid recruiting and false income claims resulting in huge consumer losses might be exposed and prosecuted under a Democratic Party-directed FTC. To combat this, the pyramid lobby first adopted a more professional facade as the, quote, Direct Selling Association. In 1990, MLM enterprises began to take over the DSA as MLM schemes were multiplying and authentic direct selling companies disappeared. Already, 25% of members were MLM, with the remainder using the traditional and legitimate door-to-door model. Today, the DSA membership is almost 100% MLM, as true direct selling has all but vanished due to obsolescence. Outwardly, the DSA was the official lobby of multi-level marketing. It even located its headquarters on the infamous K Street in Washington, D.C., with others of that notorious business. Yet the lobby's foundation was still its deep ties to the National Republican Party, and its mainstay was still the Amway Corporation. Support was also quietly being purchased across the aisle, as Ponzinomics itself pervaded both parties' economic and social agendas, with strong emphasis on the financial side, banks, debt, Wall Street of the economy. Under Reagan, this was called supply side or trickle down, and later Reaganomics. Under Clinton, this came to be called the third way. In a 1997 op-ed in the political journal Roll Call, Amway spouse Betsy DeVos made it plain that MLM would play an important role in getting George W. Bush elected in 2000. Referring to Amway's enormous funding of political campaigns, she admitted the money was to, quote, buy influence, stating bluntly, we do expect some things in return. Her husband, Dick DeVos, heir to one of the Amway founders, individually donated $48.8 million to 514 different candidates and causes over 21 years, including his own failed 2006 gubernatorial campaign. During hearings for her appointment by President Trump as head of the U.S. Department of Education, Betsy DeVos acknowledged to a congressional committee that her family may have contributed as much as $200 million to the Republican Party and Republican candidates. While purchasing bipartisan influence was now a priority goal, the most immediate perceived threat to address was the Clinton presidency and his democratically controlled FTC. The lobby had effectively prevented MLM-type pyramids from criminal fraud prosecution led by the Department of Justice and investigated by local police or the FBI. They would be treated only as a type of, quote, unfair business practice, with cases handled by the FTC. Yet even these types of cases had the potential to secure cease and desist orders, seizures of records, and individual company collapses. They also had the potential to spur class action suits that could lead to federal court rulings and interpretations affecting MLM. The lobby therefore concentrated on getting a Republican-elected president in 2000 and to gain Republican control of Congress, which would in turn suppress the FTC and other law enforcement. How the pyramid lobby gained the support of the Democratic President Bill Clinton and controlled a Democratic-led FTC would only become apparent much later. Between January 1, 1991 and June 30, 1997, according to the consumer watchdog Common Cause, Amway and affiliated donors made soft money contributions to the Republican National Committee totaling $4,147,000. In April 1997, the co-founder of Amway gave $1 million to the Republican Party, one of the largest single donations on record from an individual at that time. Federal Election Commission records show that Richard DeVos and his wife Helen wrote two $500,000 checks on April 2, 1997, from their personal accounts. In a 1997 article, nationally syndicated columnist Molly Ivins reported that the budget package passed by Congress that year provided a tax break, quote, worth $283 million to one corporation, Amway. Amway at that time employed as its tax lobbyist Roger Mintz, who was Assistant Secretary for Tax Policy in the Reagan administration. According to Ivins, quote, Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich intervened at the last minute to help get the special tax break inserted in the bill. Besides its close ties with Newt Gingrich, Ivins reported, quote, House Majority Whip Tom DeLay, a one-time Amway salesman, also remains close to the company. In the same year, Mother Jones magazine reported that Republican Congresswoman Sue Myrick of Charlotte, North Carolina, owed her election to Amway, with almost half of her total campaign funds coming from Amway people. Myrick's congressional district was home to the largest Amway distributor in the world, Dexter Yeager. Describing Amway's formidable political lobbying power in Congress, Ivins revealed that Amway actually had its own caucus of members of Congress. They were representatives who were given significant campaign contributions, and they met, quote, several times a year with Amway officials to promote or defend Amway. Among key topics for discussion was, quote, China's trade status. As will be documented later in the book, getting Congress to open China to Amway recruiting was a critical need of Amway at this time, as saturation in other markets was encroaching on, quote, growth. In 1999, the Republican Majority Issues Committee, RMIC, founded by Representative Tom DeLay, Republican from Texas, held its inaugural fundraising event. The RMIC declared its intention to, quote, identify, educate, and mobilize conservative voters in key House races. The private event was held aboard the DeVos family yacht. DeLay, a former Amway distributor, was later indicted on criminal charges of conspiracy to violate election law in 2002 by a Texas county grand jury. He resigned his position in Congress in 2006, was convicted and sentenced to 3 years in prison, but an appeals court later overturned the conviction. In the 2000 election cycle, Amway is listed by OpenSecrets.org as among the top 11 contributors to the Republican Party, just below another corporate luminary that also had extraordinarily close ties to top officials in the Republican Party, Enron. Enron was named, quote, America's most innovative company by Fortune magazine for 6 consecutive years, from 1996 to 2001. In 2001, it was revealed that Enron's remarkable profits were non-existent, the fabricated result of fraud. Describing the events of the 2000 Republican Convention in Philadelphia, where George W. Bush was nominated, the New York Times wrote, quote, "For the party's top underwriters, there will be an array of gold-plated events in Philadelphia, including cocktails with General Colin L. Powell and an evening cruise on the Delaware River aboard the Enterprise, the yacht owned by Richard M. DeVos, the Amway founder, who is a Bush supporter." At this point, the mid to late 1990s, these enormous campaign payments and intense lobbying activities by Amway were chiefly aimed at electing a Republican as the next president and getting Republican majorities in Congress. This was believed critical to stopping FTC or other possible regulatory actions against pyramid selling schemes. Prosecutions of MLMs had markedly increased between 1996 and 1999, though no large or significant MLMs were yet targeted. Evading or interfering with law enforcement was hugely important to maintaining MLM, but only as long as an even more important goal was achieved: opening more of the globe to recruiting. Amway was running out of human beings to sell its unlimited opportunity to.